I was in Vail. I don't know about you guys. That's where I was.
Jennifer Lawrence was really good naked. Oh, excuse me.
I was in Vail, Colorado at the time, and yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
I've never been to Vail, and I've never been to jail.
Vail's beautiful.
But I do know someone named Dale.
Jail's not beautiful, but Vail is beautiful. I've never been to jail, not yet, at least.
I remember Eric Vail from the Atlanta Flames.
Oh, but I will say, in my green shake, there was a little bit of kale.
Whoa. Bill Zito, the assistant general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets, went to Yale. There you go. How's that? That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, but no, but I hope
we're going to talk about Nail Yakupov.
We are. Beautiful. Well done.
Dale Talon?
Not Dale Talon, no. Although we will talk about Dale Talon today a little bit.
Okay, guys, let's. It's time to bail.
There's my Nail Yakupov picture. So the guys in the chat room, folks.
My favorite American Hockey League team is the Connecticut Whale.
Oh man, the Hartford Whalers 15 years ago yesterday or something like that. They left us or something like that. I forget what it was. It was something crazy.
I almost called into the podcast today because it's a beautiful day. I was going to go and sail.
Ah, jeez.
My favorite U.S. Vice President was Dan Quayle.
Oh, that workout I just had, I feel pretty sick. I'm starting to look pale.
All right. So yeah. So now that the rhyming portion of the show is over, I think we should do one podcast in like. Oh boy, watch out, Josh.
Without Josh choking. There you go.
Why am I yellow? Why am I yellow?
You are yellow.
They call you mellow yellow.
No, I keep turning yellow. The thing's not holding its
Oh boy.
damn futuristic electronic lights that I can control with my iPad. See, that's white. I'm a good, solid Caucasian person. That's good. That's what I need to be. Then I'm gonna keep it like that then.
Nice.
Like turn yellow again.
You see the chat room?
All our jokes fail. Yes, this is a massive fail.
No, because it rhymes.
No. Yes.
Send me
I did get that, Josh. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm able to think in those terms.
Comments in the chat room are as slow as a snail.
Well, yes. So yes. No. What's different about my What's different about this night than all other nights, Josh?
What's that? Sorry.
What's different about this night than all other nights?
Yeah.
Now here I'm gonna give up on this because I can't get I'm using these U lights, these fancy dancy U lights, and I can change colors at a whim. Like I can go like this, press a button, and suddenly I am now in the deep blue sea. There's all different sorts of things. So I'm trying to get my natural color here, which is pretty putrid. Anyway, just saying. All right, we'll go with this.
Yes.
Let me get rid of the Apple TV behind me.
Yes, it might be hacked.
If only we had interesting photos to hack into, Mike. If only we had interesting photos to hack into. If only there was a reason people would want to hack our photos. My wife. That's what my wife and I said. My wife last night was hilarious. She's like, I feel really like terrible. I feel like if someone hacked us, they would just get pictures of our children and our dogs. I'm like, I know. It's pretty lame what we save on iCloud. It kills me how suddenly America, or especially America, but I'm sure Canada and everywhere else, is suddenly worried about security because 100 celebrities were hacked. This is a horrible thing. Don't get me wrong. It's a crime. I'm with everybody, and it's always been a crime to hack into. It's not like suddenly a crime. It's always been a crime to hack into anything. And it's terrible. And I feel I think the big thing on this is Jennifer Lawrence is really beloved. Like she's like one of these people who she's just a cool person in general.
Yeah.
And everybody likes her. Whenever she's interviewed, she's totally down to earth and real.
Right.
And I think that's the difference between like her and like Miley Cyrus or whatever coming out, with different things. It's just like this is something that it's
naked pictures of Miley Cyrus wouldn't really shock anybody because when she's on stage, you basically see her naked or without. You don't really need any kind of imagination. But Jennifer Lawrence really hasn't gone buffo in many of her films.
Right. Not any. And it just made I don't know.
Yeah. Like I said, I just I understand the evasion of privacy. I understand, but I think things are a little bit out of whack and out of perspective when things like that are given as much negative response as some things that just recently happened in the news. And I just think things need to be, I think, straightened out. I mean, I understand the invasion of privacy, but let's put things in perspective, please. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, Mike, and that's a great it's a great thing to say because it's honestly true.
I will say I'm a huge Jennifer Lawrence fan, and now I'm an even bigger one, knowing that she cares about her hygiene. So thank you, Jennifer.
Oh, jeez.
That's all I'm saying.
HockeyBuzz.com, Eklund and Michael Jello are not responsible for the words of Josh.
What? She's got nice teeth. She takes good care of her teeth. It's good hygiene.
I'm sure you were looking at her teeth in all those.
I was.
Yeah,
I
sure.
was.
Okay,
I think she doesn't have any cavities. I'm very impressed.
Should have paid you tomorrow, Josh.
What? I'm serious. She's got a nice smile.
Sorry. Yes. No, but it was really absolutely, I don't know, I'm just saying. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing. It really is. And it's uncalled for and ridiculous. So, there you go. Really not a time for a gong.
Oh, man. You see the chat room?
No, I didn't.
You don't want to see it.
Okay. So what you're saying is they're talking about me again.
Nah. I never did hack the name Eklund.
Yes.
I would like to say this. I would like to send this message out to Mike Ross, if you're watching, who today was on with Mick. I can't remember who Mick. Mick. What's Mick's last name?
Kyprios?
No, on XM, and they were going
Alberga.
Alberga, yes, Mick Alberga, and they were going through the Flyers players from like the 1980s, and they got to Pelle Eklund, and they're like, "Didn't you have a blog or something like that?"
Nice.
Mike, I'd like to just send a big hello to Mike Ross, who we actually had as a Hockey Buzz blogger for the first 6 months that XM and Hockey Buzz were on the air. And you know what's interesting about this, guys? We are entering our 10th season at Hockey Buzz. If you haven't been paying attention, this is our 10th year anniversary. That's crazy in and of itself, right? So there's a new redesign. Is all I'm gonna say, but I don't know when it's gonna come out. Might be now, might be 5 years from now, but there's definitely a redesign of the website on its way. I'm not going to promise anything, but it looks awesome. That's all I'll say. Or so I've been told, because I haven't really seen much of it yet, because I don't like to see it until it gets close to the end. But that's what I've been told. It looks phenomenal. So anyway, then the podcast will have a prominent spot on that new website, by the way.
Okay, it's Wednesday, September 3rd.
Oh man. All right, fine. Do we have the odds up? Do we have the odds? You guys found these things? Josh, do you have the odds if I call?
Oh, yes, I have the odds.
All
Sorry,
right.
I was trading texts with someone.
Not
I'll
Jennifer.
let you know if there's any more. No, I'll let you know if there's any more camp invites today.
Let's do that as pre-show research in the future, Josh.
Yeah.
Before the show starts, perhaps.
Yeah.
We get the texts going.
Yeah. But when they text me during the show.
No, I know, and they watch the show. I think it's awesome, and I'm really into it. But I think and it's great whenever I have breaking news. But it would be awesome to have some of that breaking news prior to the show.
Yeah. I know. That Canadian. I wish I would have had that Canadian thing during the show yesterday, but I didn't get it till later.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine.
And Josh, what we need to do is when we have something, say breaking news, and I'll do.
Nice. The best was this morning. My name was in all the Montreal papers, and I couldn't even. I needed a translator. I forgot all my French, so I have no idea if they were saying good or bad about me.
I'm sure they were saying nothing but nice things about you.
Mm.
I mean, the French media is nothing if not fair.
Yeah, that's true.
Just look at Michelle Therrien. All right, so.
Ouch.
All right. No, I mean it shows how many chances you get in Canada. Anyway, we'll just say that's all I'll say. Here we go. September 3rd, Wednesday. Hello, Hockey World. How you doing today? It's Wednesday, September 3rd, 2014.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm trying to get my name key up. Josh Rimmer.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. Coming to you live today from Pennsylvania, Buffalo, and Ontario. And yeah, we're just we're getting there. We're getting there. We're going to do some fun things today. We thought about, talking about all the photos that we've hidden over the years from people, but we're not going to go there. We're going to we're not going to go into hacking, and we're not going to go into other things, but we are going to go into hockey and odds, particularly, and it's a little bit of betting on hockey today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody has ever bet on hockey before. I know in Canada it's encouraged, Josh. And it's legal. So you've obviously bet on hockey up in Canada.
Not hockey, just football. I said yesterday, it's tough to bet on hockey. It's like a goal or a goal and a half, and I'm not good on that. I can't even pick a game right. Look what my predictions were in the playoffs, guys. Come on.
I know.
It's not goals any longer, though. It's
right, but how does it work in Canada? Now, I know, you can go to your local Tim Hortons and get, not a Tim Hortons, but like a Tim Hortons that's a gas station or whatever, and get a card, right? Like, you can actually bet on the games. How does this work? There's some kind of national lottery, correct? I'm confused.
It's like the daily numbers. And so you go to like an Esso station or a gas station or a bodega or something like that, and you can, fill in the cards. Basically, it has a list of games for a particular day, and you just fill in either A or B, C or D, for whatever team you're choosing. You can parlay it. You can do 2 or 3 picks.
Okay.
It's like that. You can pick one game, but you can also pick 2 or 3.
So is it like $1 or what is it? Like the daily number would be like.
You can bet as much as $50.
Okay.
You can bet $2, $5. Right. Like right now, I'm looking at today's line. Well, there's no hockey games right now, but basically they have the over/under. Obviously,
there aren't. There are no hockey games today.
No hockey games today.
What the hell are we doing this show for?
No, they're not. They don't have the KHL lines up there. So.
All right, so yes, I'm sorry. So sorry to interrupt you. That just kind of took.
Yeah, no problem. Like they have the over/under and the spread and that kind of thing, and like I said, you could bet between $5 and $50. I think actually no, sorry, you could do $100 even. I think you got to pick between 3 and 6 games.
Right. I thought you could pick one game, but that may have been before.
No, you got to pick at least 3 games, and if you pick 3 games and you get all 3 right, I think you win. You can win $100, $150. See, football, I used to do pro line football all the time, and based on the spread, and I do $50 and pick 6 games, and if I got all 6 games right, $50. It turned out to be, I think it was like $1,500 or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty good.
It never happened though. Never. Buffalo always screwed me, but anyway, we won't go into that.
No, that's what they're there for.
Isn't that the title of the podcast, by the way? Buffalo always screwed me. There you go.
No, so what it is basically it's a government-run version of the guy who hands out football cards at work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's basically.
That's actually what's funny. I just got in trouble because I was handed at our girls' soccer practice. Our soccer team's doing a fundraiser, like doing the football type card things, and a bunch of girls last night handed me this envelope with hundreds of dollars in it, saying this is from our parents, for the football pool, and I didn't even know it existed. So I came home and I started calling around the other parents. I'm like, why do I have all this money? But yeah, you're right. These things, and football. No, with football, I get it, okay? Because football, I've never bet. I will be honest right here. I love to gamble, and I'm a huge gambler, but I've never gambled on sports ever. And I guess with the exception of horse racing, which I used to. My uncle was was like a world famous prognosticator for horse racing. He wrote for the Philadelphia Bulletin years ago. I met Walter Matthau. I was in the Garden State racetrack the day it burned down in New Jersey. So I have a lot of history with horse racing. So I love horse racing, but I've never bet on football, baseball, or basketball, with the exception of like the NCAA pools and things like that, right? Where I won a TiVo in 2002, the year TiVo came out. No one knew what the hell that was, but that was so. But anyway, but yeah, so I love, but I'll play the occasional blackjack, although I haven't played it since January, I guess. But yeah, I'm not a big gambler, but but sports to me, I kind of get football because it's such a thing. It's once a week. It's it's fun to watch the games, and it's more fun to watch, I guess, when you've got skin in the game too, right? So I get football. But and Atlantic's there's gambling, or obviously legal gambling everywhere. So, but hockey. I've always been told, at least, the way hockey works. And again, I'm really not very good at this, but the way hockey works, Mike, now, or are you guys familiar with how hockey works now? If you were to gamble in, say, Vegas game by game.
Well, like I said, it's odds. I mean,
Okay.
it's not. It used to be, and when I was in my early 20s, I used to bet a little bit with friends, and a friend of a friend was a bookie, so I bet
Right.
a little bit. Don't do that anymore. But back then, the line was goals. It was they would have a game that was an even split, be like half and half, meaning half a
Okay.
goal, half a goal. So if the game ended in a tie, and this was before the shootout, the bookie would not have any kind of push. It would be win or lose, and if the game was a tie, the bookie won everything. So they were always rooting for ties. Most of the lines were goal and a half, and when it was a half, there was always going to be a winner. When there was a goal, there was a possibility of being a
Right.
push.
So you'd always say,
Now,
yeah.
now it's basically odds. So say, for example, you have Boston playing in Buffalo. If you bet $100, the odds might be, I think it's like they have it like in numbers of like 180 to 100, and if it's 180, that means that if you bet $100 on the Sabres and they win over the Bruins, and the odds are 180, that they would get $180 for a $100 bet.
Gotcha.
Whereas, you could bet if the team is a massive favorite and the odds are the other way, you probably win $30 or $40 for a $100 bet. So that's the way they're doing it now, which to me confuses me a little bit and doesn't make it as fun. So I don't bet on individual games anymore. The only thing that I do now is what everybody else in Canada and some people in the U.S. do, which is a fantasy hockey pool.
Right. I've done
for the
fantasy hockey
playoffs.
bowls for
Yeah.
years. Yeah. So that's a totally different thing.
Yeah, I do that as well. And you know what? The only way I'd probably bet on something would be, for instance, when Bovida, which just released their predictions for the year on who would win the Stanley Cup. I mean, I might throw down $100 on a team if I see the odds look pretty good for a certain team. Like, for instance, I'll throw this out there. The Colorado Avalanche are 18-1 odds.
Yeah, well, let's look at the odds for these teams now and see what we think about that. That's a good idea. Like, I mean, Colorado 18-1.
Yeah, I like Colorado a lot. I mean, am I saying they're going to win the Stanley Cup? No, but they could surprise people. They surprised people last year with how well they played. I mean, I've seen a couple magazines think that Varlamov's going to win the Vezina this year. So, I mean, $100 bet on Colorado, 18-1 odds. It's not bad. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you go out and do that, but I'm saying that that looks like a more attractive one than some of the other ones. And other odds, the top one is the Blackhawks. No surprise. They're 13.
What are they? What are the odds?
13-2 odds for the Chicago Blackhawks, followed by the LA Kings with 9-1 odds. The Boston Bruins are 10-1. The Ducks and the Penguins are both 12-1, as well as the St. Louis Blues. That's another team too. I like the Blues a lot.
Penguins at 12-1 is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Can I throw that out there right now? The Penguins are not going to win the Stanley Cup this year. That's just my 2 cents. I mean, this is a turbulent year for the Penguins at best. I mean, they could struggle to make the playoffs, and I know that sounds crazy, but I really don't see the Penguins as. I mean, that Penguins 12-1 is just Canadians betting Crosby. But go on, Josh.
And let me just say, of those, I mean, I like St. Louis. I think they've improved themselves with the addition of Paul Stastny, but 12-1 with a rookie goaltender and Jake Allen is a little bit of a scary proposition to me. But that's just
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. But okay.
They also have Elliott though as well.
And also, I'll say this though. I think the Kings at 9-1 are a pretty good bet. Like, I don't think that's terrible. I mean, that's a high when you think about a team that's won 2 of the last 3 Stanley Cups. They're 9-1. I mean, that seems like that should be a lot lower. I would say 4 or 5-1. Like 9-1.
Well, I know the reason why, and that's not a lot of people. I don't know if this was even reported actually, but Jonathan Quick had wrist surgery, and he's still not even 100% yet. And if you remember the last time the Kings won the Stanley Cup, he had back surgery, and it took him, I'd say, a good year to get back to form.
Yeah,
the wrist surgery is a little different than your back. Yeah. But it's still, I don't know if he catches with that hand or if he blocks.
He played the final 2 rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs with that wrist injury.
Yeah.
Plus, that team won consistently and effectively with Ben Scrivens and Matt Jones in goal.
Matt Jones was really good last year.
Matt Jones was really good. So
he was an unsung hero for that team. And had Matt Jones not been so good during the year, that the Kings might not have made the playoffs. I mean, he was that good for them. So yeah, I agree. And
Scrivens, or Martin Jones, excuse me,
Martin Jones, right? Martin.
I always say Matt Jones because I know somebody named Matt Jones, Martin Jones. But if Ben Scrivens has to be given credit too because he played very well for about a month with the Kings, then got traded to Edmonton and actually played good with Edmonton. So
Martin Jones got so screwed out of the Jennings. That's another story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. No, I think that you're absolutely right. And this is the thing. I don't care about the Kings in September or October. I mean, it doesn't. We've seen this now. The Kings just have to make the playoffs. It doesn't matter where they are. They're good enough to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs in the West. And if they make the playoffs, I'm sure. I'm sure the goalies will be fine by then. I'm sure the situation will be fine by then. That's just, I don't know, my 2 cents.
But continue on, Josh.
Yep.
Okay, a little bit of a surprise here. Well, the next couple of ones are surprises. The San Jose Sharks are 14-1 to win the Stanley Cup.
Laughable. Continue.
The Wild are 16-1.
That's not bad. I mean,
it's not bad, but the goaltending situation is just out to be clarified.
Okay, this is the thing. If Harding is healthy, remember he was the best goalie in the NHL last year when he was healthy. I mean, and if he's healthy and you put the best goalie in the NHL on a team that got to where they got to with Ilya Bryzgalov behind them, I really think that that's not impossible. They are not flashy, but they are very much the New Jersey Devils of like the late 1990s, early 2000s. And if they get the right goaltending, they can frustrate teams just like the Devils did, I think.
That's like saying if I had 70 more pounds of muscle, I'd be Mr. Universe. I mean,
Yeah, but Harding's injuries were they were not related to his other things, so it's not. It's hard to say.
His at the end of the season, his problems were related to his MS.
Right at the end of the season, they were.
So and the thing was, yes, if he could play 50, 60 games and then play in the playoffs and play the way he played last year, which was incredible, then yeah, I would think that those odds are accurate. But his health problems, Backstrom's chronic injury problems, and then they have Kemper. I think is a good young goaltender, but you just have such instability there that I don't know if 16-1. I think it's probably they should be more than 25-1 based on all their problems.
Possibly. All right, Josh, continue.
Yes, I'm looking at. Let's see here. Speaking of the Wild, didn't Bryzgalov's agent say that he'd like to go back to Minnesota, even though there's already 2 goalies there? But anyway,
yeah,
that was Rich Winter, right?
Yeah, Rich Winter. Rangers and the Lightning are also 16-1. I like the Lightning at 16-1. The Rangers.
The Lightning is the better of the 2 bets. I agree.
I'm not a.
Yeah, tomorrow tomorrow I'm putting together my blog of my 30 wacky predictions for the year. It's a really fun blog for me to do, and Lightning have a good one for the Lightning. I think the Lightning at 16-1 is a steal.
So how much are they getting from Toronto in a Stamkos trade?
Not yet.
Oh God. Canadians. The Avalanche are 18-1. The Canadians are also 18-1.
Just forget about it. Just forget about it. That's
ridiculous.
No way.
I'm sorry. That team is significantly worse.
I will give you 5-1 odds on the Canadians not making the playoffs.
Yeah. I'm picking the Canadians to miss the playoffs. I am.
I mean, it's hard to make the playoffs. There's a lot of teams that improved, and the Canadians have lost a lot. I don't know. I know we're gonna get killed for it, but I don't know.
No, I mean, well, okay. The loss of Briere, even though Vanek was a trade deadline acquisition, the loss of a top 6 forward in Vanek, Subban has used the motivation to get the big contract as fuel the last 2 years. There's there's the inevitable. I mean, he's got a motor that doesn't quit. He's got a lot of pride. I don't doubt that for a second. But the inevitable letdown that always happens with players once they sign those big deals. Maybe he has something to prove. Yeah. I think that's a factor. And Carey Price
is awesome. Come on, you can't really
No. He's awesome, but he's been injured a couple times in the last few years, and I'm starting to wonder whether he's a chronic injury problem like a Kerry Lettinen in Dallas. And if he is that, then he's not as dependable. He's one of the best goaltenders in the league when he's there, but sometimes he's not there.
Here's what I think. My issue with the Canadiens is the loss of Gerard Gallant. And that to me is a way bigger loss than Briere or anyone else. Obviously, I think the loss of Gallant and what Gallant did to help balance that situation out cannot be understated. I've talked to so many players who just told me that flat out that is huge. And
Plus, they're going to be depending a lot more on a lot of youngsters. You're going to have Nathan Beaulieu probably making the team, Jared Tenorti making the team on defense. They're going to expect Galchenyuk to step up offensively.
Right. I mean, who are the leaders in the team now? Who are the leaders? I mean, Gianta's gone. Gianta's gone. He was a veteran leader. Briere is a veteran leader. Gallant gone. I mean, now you're looking at Plekanec, who is a good, solid player, but not necessarily a rah-rah leadership guy in the room. Subban is the leader of the team, no question about it, right? Because he should be handed the C, I would think, without question. Even though I guess they haven't said that yet or what have you. But yeah, anyway, continue on Montreal. That's a good one. Josh, continue. Sorry.
Dallas Stars, which I like that one a little bit more than the Montreal one. They're 20-1 odds.
That is a great bet.
Yeah. That's a great bet, but if it was a bet to make the playoffs rather than win the Stanley Cup, I think Dallas will make the playoffs. I don't think they're gonna win the Stanley Cup. At least not yet. Their defense is still a little bit in question. Their forwards are great, but
yeah, I like their forward. I like their defense. I actually don't. To me, in my opinion, we gotta do our own version of these odds after this. Go ahead, Josh.
Okay, the Detroit Red Wings are 22-1 odds. Now, this is a team. I still look at their defense guys and I shake my head at. They have Cronwall, but after Cronwall, they got all these guys that are, they're not really big point producers. They've never been able to fill the void with Lidstrom and Rafalski. Those were their, they had the top three guys back there with Cronwall, Rafalski, and Lidstrom. But they've never been able to replace those guys.
Jonathan Ericsson is, pretty much a defensive defenseman and just a big guy that takes up space. Not really impressed with him.
And where's Brendan Smith been? Like, this guy was highly touted to be like the next Nicholas Lidstrom, basically.
Well, I'm sorry. You got to stop. You got to stop comparing every defenseman that is going to be on that team to Nicholas Lidstrom.
It wasn't me comparing him.
No. I know. I'm just saying that. So he's a once in a generation player, and I'm just saying. Danny DeKeyser was a pretty good addition, and he's right now not signed. So his addition will help that team. But no,
he's defensive too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got some offensive ability. I'm just, the thing that people don't realize about Detroit, even if Daniel Alfredsson comes back, is that the core of that team is old and crumbling. Zetterberg, Datsuk, Franzen, all have, the great free agent signing of Stephen Weiss. A lot of things encouraging with the guys like Nyquist and Tatar and Yurko coming in during the year and infusing some youth into the team, but the core of that team, the heart of that team, are still the veterans, and they can't stay healthy. So 22-1 joke.
I'm playing the devil's advocate on this one, guys, because I actually think the Red Wings were one of the most injured teams last year in the NHL, and they were. They got great coaching last year. They still have great coaching. They still have Zetterberg and Datsuk, who are not, they're still nothing to sneeze at, in my opinion. I'm not saying that they are what they were at their height, but they're still there.
Yes.
And is it just me, guys, or does Jimmy Howard, another guy that just has injury issues every year?
Oh, he does. There's no question, and he's a problem.
Jimmy Howard has talent issues. I've never been a Jimmy.
I don't know about that, but
I think he's one of the most overrated goaltenders in the NHL. I mean, I will agree. I agree with your point on Datsuk and Zetterberg. They are still there. If they stay healthy, that team is a contender. Problem is they have a problem. They're what? Zetterberg is in his early 30s. Datsuk, I think, is in his mid to late 30s. They're at the end of their career. They're on the downslope of their career. They're not in their primes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's no question that they're not in their primes, but Detroit. I mean, remember they were. It's funny because they're now such an Eastern Conference team, right? We talk about the East being weaker than the West, but when we talk about the West being stronger than the East, well, Detroit was always mentioned in that conversation. And I think it's only 1 year removed. I'm not willing to go there yet. Like I think that they're still. But let's move on, Josh. Continue.
And I mean, what is it? 22 years in a row the Red Wings made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean that almost didn't happen last year.
Should have ended last year, but a certain team couldn't couldn't do it in the last month of the season. But continue.
If they're healthier, they'll be back anyway. Continue.
The next one I shake my head at a little bit too. The Philadelphia Flyers, 28-1 odds.
Again, if it's getting out of the Eastern Conference, those are good odds. Winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, I like the Flyers. I like Steve Mason as a goaltender. I like their depth at forward. I'm not a particular fan of Andrew McDonald as a top pairing defenseman, but I do think that they're a little better on defense. I just don't know if they could beat a LA or a Chicago in a Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, all right, and I actually think that those odds are about right. To be honest, it's funny saying a Philadelphia guy, and the reason I say that is because Mason is such a thing. Like if Mason comes on as the goalie he should be, or was at parts last year, then the Flyers they're way better than 28-1 odds. But Mason, we've seen ups and downs. We saw what he did in Columbus when he started. Then we saw where he went in Columbus. I need to know Mason can do it again. And if he can show he does it again, then yeah, the Flyers are all about goaltending. They have plenty of scoring. I think they have an okay defense, but and their defense is fine. But if they get the goaltending, then if you take away the last month of the season last year, the Flyers were as good as anyone in the East. I mean, take away the first month of the season last year, the Flyers were as good as anyone in the East. The first month of the season, they were absolutely horrible. 28 being Claude Giroux's number, I'd say it's about right. I think it's about right. I would go there. Go ahead, Josh. Continue.
What else we got here? The next one might not be a bad one to throw $100 on. The Columbus Blue Jackets, 33-1 odds.
That is a good one to throw. That is a good. To win a Stanley Cup, no, but to be really a serious team this year and be like an Eastern Conference finalist, yes. I mean, I would love to know what their odds are to be an Eastern Conference finalist because.
Well, we'll talk about it, but a certain guy getting signed before the season should be a factor in that. But continue.
We'll talk about that. That'll get done.
By the way, the Jackets are 16-1 odds to win the 2015 Eastern Conference.
16-1. That is a pretty good bet. I mean, that's not. Yeah. It's not great, but I mean, 16-1. I'm okay with that. I would put that. I mean, that's not the best bet I've heard so far on this list, but it's there. I think that's probably about right.
Okay, next.
Josh.
Let's see. Next we got the Toronto Maple Leafs at 40-1. Sorry, Toronto Maple Leafs 40-1 odds.
I'd bet $25 on that.
There's a lot of teams that they're better than in their opinion. I mean that's pretty crazy because 40-1 is high, but then you think about there's a lot of teams we haven't mentioned yet, right? So there's a lot of teams.
Yeah, a lot of teams.
That's obviously because there are a lot of Leaf fans that they're 40-1. I mean that's the only reson that those odds would be where they are.
They'll get a lot of action on that bet, and basically they'll get a lot of action from people like me who will say, what the hell, I'll bet $25 because at 41 they'll win 1,000. But if they're throwing away their money because, I mean, I'm an observer of the Leafs. I would like to see them win because it's sort of annoying to watch them lose all this time. But in their best scenario, I don't see them winning the Stanley Cup this year. I can dream, but I don't think it's going to happen. But continue.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got here. Also at 40-1 odds are the Vancouver Canucks and the Washington Capitals.
God.
Wow.
The Canucks, I don't get it.
No. I think okay,
especially coming out of the West.
Yeah,
I put those teams at the same. I put those. This is the one thing I'll say. Whether or not those odds are right or not, I would put those teams about the same odds to winning a Stanley Cup. I would say I consider them very similar teams in each conference. Both teams could make the playoffs, and they could surprise you and be better than you'd think. Both teams could fall out of it completely. That's the one thing I'll say about them. They're similar, but I don't know where to put them.
I mean, the odds should be longer on the middle of the pack and lower rung of the Western Conference because just get through the West. I mean, I think that Vancouver should be 50-1 compared. My criticism of Toronto aside, they would have an easier path, or a team like them would have an easier path getting to the final, like the Rangers did last year, to get to the final, rather than a team like Vancouver going through L.A. and Chicago and St. Louis or whatever to get to the final. So I think their odds should be a lot higher. And Washington, until Alex Ovechkin learns how to play in his own zone, forget it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Mike. Josh, continue.
Next up, we have the Edmonton Oilers at 50-1 odds, along with the New Jersey Devils.
Wow, two teams that I don't think have the same. I think that.
This is my reaction, and this goes out to Ryan Garner.
All right, no, I'm going to say this: the Edmonton Oilers are going to be a better team this year. That's my opinion, but I think they'll be better than New Jersey, but I don't know. I mean, the New Jersey Devils are always a tough team to understand, and they can sometimes. Whenever I say they're bad, they're very good. So I don't know what I want to say about them, but they are definitely, to me, not a playoff team. The Edmonton Oilers, very outside shot of being a playoff team, but still, but I would think a better chance than New Jersey. That's my thought. I don't know. Continue, Josh.
We have the Arizona Coyotes and the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders and the Ottawa Senators and the Winnipeg Jets at 66-1 odds.
Those odds are low for most of those teams, especially the Islanders. I think that's about right for the Coyotes because I think they do have the goaltending.
The Winnipeg Jets in that group?
Yeah, the Winnipeg Jets should be about 100-1.
I think the Winnipeg Jets are. I actually think they're better than all those teams in that group.
Yeah, but they're in the West, and they.
Yeah, but still, I think that I don't know. I mean, if you're winning the Stanley Cup, you're winning. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's hard to get through, but you were still winning the Stanley Cup is winning the Stanley Cup. To me, it's like
questionable goaltending. They have the offense, they have the talent up front, they have the talent on the blue line, they have the questionable goaltending, and getting through the West. So I think the odds for them and the Islanders should be higher than 66-1.
Yeah.
And okay, who are the bless you, Georgia. Wow.
Oh, okay, sorry guys.
Okay.
Tight. Yeah, so I'm with you, Mike. I mean, all right, I can buy that. I can buy most.
How many teams are left, Josh?
We got 4, and one of them I'm actually a little shocked at. Especially, I think they had a pretty good offseason, and I think they could surprise a few people this year. And that's the Florida Panthers, who are at the bottom. There's 4 teams left, and all 4 of them are 75-1. Sabres, Flames, Panthers, and Predators. But I think the Panthers did a lot.
Hold the fort here for a second. The Predators they put in that group? That's ridiculous.
Predators are last, 75-1.
That's just because no one bets hockey in Nashville. The Predators are not the worst team in the NHL.
Go throw a C note on that, Eck.
Oh, I'm not going to. There's no way. Like I said, I won't. But there's no. But I'm telling you right now. Look at the Predators' defense. Look what they've done offensively. And Peter Laviolette has a really incredible record his first year at places. I'm telling you, there's going to, and the Predators team, there's going to be an excitement. I mean, as much as I love Barry Trotz, there's going to be a big excitement in that town with a new coach. There's going to be a whole different vibe around the team. They've got, you've still got Shea Weber and Seth Jones on defense. I mean, none of the other teams in that category have Seth Jones or Shea Weber on defense. I mean, or Pekka Rinne coming back at full strength. I mean, that's absurd. No, the Predators could make the playoffs. I don't think they will, but they could make the playoffs.
The lack of firepower is the question, and Laviolette will want to play a more wide open game, but it's a question of whether they have the horses to be able to play that more wide open game. I mean,
They
honestly,
trades. They picked up some firepower. So
I think that's about right for Florida because I think there's an outside chance that they make the playoffs if Luongo stands on his head and Barkov plays well and Huberdeau and Ekblad. Then they did add some veterans. Calgary, to me, there's no chance of them making the playoffs, let alone win the Stanley Cup. And Buffalo should be 200-1. They should. They're.
Yeah, can you imagine Buffalo? Well, it's just because there's so many people in Buffalo, but it's these odds are messed up because of that reason.
Well, yeah,
there's no reason Buffalo should be considered worse than the Nashville Predators. That's so absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just beyond crazy. It really is. I mean,
I don't get it, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan in the chat room says Preds 10th in the West, but nowhere near last in the league. I think that's absolutely about right. I mean, if I was to pick, we talked about teams that could crack that, Magic 8 in the West, who, basically the 5 Central teams and the 3, 5 and the 3 and the 3 California teams, which are the teams I think have almost a easy route to the playoffs. I'd put the Predators in there as one of the teams that could crack that, if any. So yeah.
And we have. Do you guys want to go over the odds to win the 2015 East or the 2015 West? I also have the Atlantic.
Give us the top 3 of each.
Yeah, give us the top 3 of the East.
Okay. The odds to win the 2015 Eastern Conference: the Bruins 3-1, the Penguins 5-1, and the Rangers 15-2. And the Lightning are actually tied with the Rangers at 15-2.
I would bet Tampa. I mean, in terms of odds, in terms of odds, I would put money on Tampa because the odds will be good. Mm-hmm. I think the Rangers are taking a step back, and I don't get all the Penguins love. I agree with that. I mean, that team has got some flaws, and they've lost 3. They lost 2 of their defensemen. Letang is an unknown commodity, and Theo Fleury is as fragile as delicate china. So
the Metropolitan Division is a huge question mark all over the place.
Marc-Andre
Fleury. Marc-Andre Fleury is Marc-Andre Fleury, right? I heard a really interesting Rob. Is it Rob Rossi who's the Penguins guy, right? Heard him on XM.
Bless you.
Bless you, Rob. Bless you, Josh.
God.
Josh is allergic to odds, as you can tell.
No, I think it's his wig.
Get rid of that wig, man. All right, so Rob Rossi, who does a really good job covering the Penguins, was on, and is my favorite writer for the Penguins, one of my favorite writers in the NHL at this point. He was on XM and he was talking about the Penguins, and he was really laid it out. Like he said, this is a team that actually created their own mess on purpose to sort of shake up the organization. And in a way, he was just the way he nailed it. I mean, I wish I could remember all of it, but. The one thing that he said that I thought was absolutely poignant was when Mac asked about Marc-Andre Fleury, he said that it's really kind of a lose-lose with Marc-Andre Fleury for them for this year, because if he does play really well and say he even gets them through a round or 2 of the playoffs, then the big offers will be there, and the Penguins have such cap issues, there's no way they can keep him. If he doesn't play well, there's no way they'll want to keep him. So there's really no way Marc-Andre Fleury, he says, returns. This is like Marc-Andre Fleury's last year, and having a lame duck goalie like that without another goalie in their system that they really like. I mean, they don't have the guy. Puts the Penguins in a big issue, and he also said, as much as Orpik, has lost a little bit of his step and stuff like that. He said when he asked Sidney Crosby if he could imagine playing on a team without Brooks Orpik, Crosby said no, he couldn't. He said he's the most important person in the locker room. So, you got to give the Caps. They could have paid a whole lot less for an assistant coach than they paid for Brooks Orpik, but they, at the same time, that move was a little bit more understandable, and definitely a move that you can see Barry Trotz, you can see where he was going with that.
And I think that the Ehrhoff acquisition sort of counteracts the loss of Niskanen. I think Ehrhoff will have a really good year.
Yeah.
And I think he's capable enough to either play point on the power play. I mean, he did with Buffalo for a time, but the leadership of Orpik is a loss, and they have a guy like Scuderi who seems to be losing a step. And like I said, Letang was not the same defenseman after, and who would be after a stroke?
Yeah.
So it's and they do have some young guys coming up. I mean, Mata had a good rookie year. They have Pouliot, a couple other young kids who might be able to join their defense, but there are a lot of question marks. So I don't think they deserve that high standing. But because Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin are there, that's what's going to happen.
All right, so those are the odds of the top three. Where are the Flyers, just out of curiosity, to win the East, Josh?
Flyers are to win the Eastern Conference at 14-1 odds. They're just above the Blue Jackets at 16-1.
I would flip that.
And Toronto's about 20-1?
20-1, yep. Leafs are 20-1.
Okay, what about the top three in the West?
Yeah.
Top three in the West, the Blackhawks are 17-2 to win the Western Conference.
Okay.
The LA Kings are 5-1. And the Anaheim Ducks and Blues are both 6-1.
5-1. Well, wait. So 17-2 is worse than 5-1, right?
Yeah.
7-2.
7-2. Oh, I thought you said 17-2. Okay, cool. All right. That's not that crazy. I mean, I think Chicago and LA are the top teams. Although, what Anaheim did this summer, it depends on what Kessler's got left. Kessler's going to go one way or the other. Don't you feel like if he's either going to be an incredible signing that just makes the Ducks just unstoppable, or it's going to be an absolute disaster? Like, I don't see a middle ground for the Kessler trade. Either he's got, he's young, he's not that old, but he's a beat up player and he plays that way. So I don't know. That's.
And I might be way off base, but I just somehow get this feeling that the under the radar signing of Danny Heatley, if he plays with Getzlaf and Perry, he might be able to help them. Might be able to do something.
I don't think he's going to be playing with them. I think he'll be on the third line, guys.
If he's on the third line, then he won't be a factor. But if they
be on the power play, he'll be on the power play.
With skilled players, and if they think he can keep up, then he might be a factor for them. But
this is Danny Heatley's last chance in the NHL, and then he's going to have to go overseas.
Right.
All right, so there's a little bit of battle going on in our chat room between the Flames fans and the Oilers fans right now.
There's a shot.
About who's the battle of Alberta lives proudly in the HockeyBuzz chat room right now. The question being, who's better? Who's going to be better, the Flames or the Oilers? And this is the way we're talking. Of course, everyone's saying, you're saying the Flames can't make the playoffs. I'm saying the Oilers could make the playoffs. But at the end of the day, those teams are pretty close in my mind. Like I actually think I'm actually the one, remember, who didn't pick Calgary as one of the teams, as one of the bottom teams in the league. So I actually think Calgary's a better team than people think. I was impressed watching them last year. They have a lot of hardworking players on their team, and they are coached very well. And I like some of their signings. I think that Calgary and Edmonton are going to sort of be neck and neck. That's my thought. Your thought on Calgary and Edmonton, Mike?
Well, let's just say this: if it was based on, where the teams should be, Edmonton should be way ahead because Edmonton has had their 3 number 1 overall picks, and those players have had a chance to mature a little bit. They should be way ahead of Calgary, who was basically just starting their rebuild. They drafted they drafted Monahan, they drafted Bennett. But Calgary has a better team concept. They have young guys like T.J. Brody and Giordano is not a young guy, but he's a good leader on their defense. They've added Hiller in goal. There's still question marks in Edmonton whether Scrivens and Victor Fast can be the tandem that will lead into the playoffs. Their defense has long been a question mark. And the consistency of their forwards is a question mark, and the fact that they have again the same forwards, the skill guys like Yakupov and Hall and Eberle, and they really don't have that middle ground, those bottom 6 guys that sometimes make the difference and play roles that need to be played. Calgary has a better team concept. I think Edmonton has more talent. They probably are going to end up within 5 or 6 points of each other, though.
I think it's close. Josh, what do you think?
Well, I want to say this about Edmonton. I think something big is going to happen early on. I think, one, either Dallas Aikens will be let go, or they're going to have to trade either Ryan Nugent-Hopkins or Yakupov. But the Oilers are going to have to do something early. If they come stumbling out of the gate again, I really believe the Oilers are going to have to do something. I like the Flames a lot. I like, with Brian Burke at the helm, obviously he's going to try to make some crazy trades, possibly. They got a lot of good young talent as well. Sven Barchi's been a disappointment, but I love Sean Monahan and T.J. Brody, the defenseman for the Flames last year, who I believe had, I'd say, about 75% of his points in the last 25 to 30 games.
Right.
Really came on last year. And I like the Flames a lot. Will they be a playoff team? I don't think so. I think the Oilers are going to be worse than the Flames, but I think the Oilers are going to have to do something because you know what? Yeah, Daryl Katz put out that thing in the paper, telling all the fans to bear with us. But you know what? They've been a losing team for a few years now. They've gone through so many coaches. I think 5 coaches in the last 7 years, something ridiculous like that. Yeah. They're going to have to do something to appease the fans because this team has been a huge disappointment. They went out, they got Nugent Hopkins, Eberle, Taylor Hall, now Yakupov, but they haven't addressed the major concern. They still do not have a top-flight defenseman. Yeah, Justin Schultz is supposed to be good. He signed a 1-year deal, a show-me contract, but they still don't have that big-time minutes eater that could also put some big points up. Could Edmonton come knocking again on Toronto's door for Phaneuf? Phaneuf would obviously have to waive his no trade if that happened.
Yeah, that'd be a rough one I don't see Phaneuf doing that. That's my opinion. Now this does transition nicely into my blog from today, which is that I got a text from a source. I got this text early this morning, and then a second text that I'll talk about in a second as well, that said Yakupov is very much in play. Now, yesterday you talked about this possible trade rumor, Mike. Involving the Bruins, which I think was started at my research. It was started as like one of the Edmonton newspapers put it out there as wouldn't this be a perfect type trade?
Dave Staples, the columnist from Edmonton, I believe.
Right, and just would make sense for both teams, So it wasn't really a rumor; it was more just like a thought. Yeah. So, but that got me calling around to people yesterday and today, and what I did find is that the Oilers are very open to this. They're not shopping him at all, but they are open. There's an openness to listening, although they're basically made it known that they're only open until the start of camp. So if they're going to move Yakupov, it's going to be now, is what they're saying, of course. Take that for what it's worth. And there are teams definitely interested. Like I remember last year, there was an interesting moment when the Leafs were rumored to be involved in Yakupov, and I think Darren Dreger, who came out and said something like, the Leafs wouldn't give this or that for Yakupov or whatever it was. And Dreger being tied into the Leafs as he is, some people, kind of took that as just a direct message across the bow, so to speak, of, to the Oilers that, we have no interest in Yakupov for what you're possibly asking. But when I did my homework around, what I found was the Bruins were not really interested in Yakupov, but I did find the Devils, the Senators, and the Ducks to be interested in Yakupov so far, and there's a couple teams who haven't gotten back to me yet, a couple of my sources. So, and I just got one, and like I said, the text I'll read you right off of here, I wrote in my blog too, was it basically says, Yakupov is very much in play. The team's Oilers' open-mindedness to this scenario could change dramatically with the onset of training camp. So, I think Yakupov is definitely in play. I don't think it's a surprise Yakupov is in play, but I actually think that it could get done, talking to some people. And I think the Devils, if I was to take a bet right now, are the team that could do it. So what are your thoughts on Yakupov, Mike?
Well, the Devils might make some sense because they're such an older generation club that they really need an infusion of a young player. I mean, they have guys like Henrique and they have Travis Zajac who are still in their 20s, but the core of that team is still the Ilyashes and the Yagers, and they had Mike Camilleri as a free agent in the summer, and he's still a quality player, but they really don't have a star of the future on that roster, and they definitely could use him. Whether they have the pieces to be able to get him, I mean, I don't think that a guy like Jelena what's one of their top defensemen who they just signed to a 5-year, $25 million contract.
Andy Green.
Yeah.
Andy Green.
Sorry, somebody for some reason Jelena popped him in my head.
Yeah, it's fine.
But Andy Green, I don't think Andy Green it really makes it, or Adam Larson, who's a top 5 pick and really hasn't bloomed so far in his career. So I don't think they have the right combo to get a Yakupov. The funny thing is that deal that was talked about, the Bruins and the Oilers. I mean, Johnny Boychuk is 1 year away from being an unrestricted free agent and is 30 years old. So you're going to give up a 20 or 21-year-old former first overall pick for a guy who's in the prime of his career, but probably in a couple years will be on the downslope. To me, they have to get themselves a defenseman who's under the age of 25 and a defenseman who can be a 20-minute-a-night defenseman. If they get that for Yakupov, then it's a deal that makes sense for the Oilers. If they don't, then it makes no sense at all.
I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate on that a little bit. Josh, your thoughts on Yakupov?
Yeah, he's been a huge disappointment. I think, like I said a minute ago, the Oilers are going to probably have to move him or Nugent Hopkins. They're going to have to do something in order to get something for him. I mean, he was highly touted, obviously, when that whole year leading up to the draft. He went number 1 overall. A lot of people thought he was the real deal. He had that bad knee injury, though, guys, if you remember, in the OHL leading up to the draft.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's been a huge disappointment. And can he rebound? Does he need a change of scenery? I think he does. If he gets a change of scenery, you know, maybe things can change and he can become a better player. But I think he's buried behind the likes of Nugent Hopkins and Taylor Hall and Jordan Eberle. You know, he's kind of the guy on the back burner. Like, he's not on the top line. So.
Well, let's just say this. I mean, Yakupov, he's still on his entry-level deal. He's a restricted free agent without negotiating rights next year. So based on what Edmonton has done in the past, you know, he's in line to make $6 million because that's what they pay all their top picks on the second deal. Nugent Hopkins is already locked up, and Nugent Hopkins is a center.
Yeah.
Unless they think Draisaitl, the kid that they drafted at the top of the first round this year, unless they think he's ready to jump into the NHL as an 18-year-old, I can't see them trading Nugent Hopkins, who arguably is their number 1 center, in any trade. They could trade Yakupov because they have Hall, they have Eberle, they have David Perron, who came from St. Louis and played pretty well. They added Benoit Pouliot, so they have enough depth on the wings that they could afford to trade Yakupov for defensive help. But if they trade Nugent Hopkins, then their number 1 center, who is it? Do they move Taylor Hall in the middle? I mean, is it an 18-year-old in Draisaitl? I mean, it limits them if they trade Nugent Hopkins. That's why I think it's Yakupov, and there is no chance they trade Nugent Hopkins.
Yeah, and there's no chance they trade Nugent Hopkins. I agree with that. I think that, and I don't think they even look at them in the same breath. You know, like I think that, you know, Nugent Hopkins is still has that, you know, that pedigree type thing, and he's a Canadian kid. It's a whole different world, you know. Like, I mean, Yakupov being a Russian does not work in his favor here, and it also doesn't, you know, it enables him to be more expendable. The Oilers, one thing they are so to a fault, in my opinion, they treat their top picks like they're gold, like that they're the best things in the world. I mean, when you were talking about, you know, the Columbus Blue Jackets, you know, not yet signing Johansson, right? So we got that, you know, look at that situation, right? So they haven't signed him yet, and one of the reasons they haven't signed him yet is they don't want to do what the Edmonton Oilers have done, which is throw 6-year, $6 million contracts at a guy who's played well for the Blue Jackets but hasn't played, you know, but has also shown at times that he's not, you know, anything to write. I mean, 2 years ago was in the AHL and was scratched in an AHL playoff series because he wasn't performing. I mean, so, you know, Ryan Johansson has his issues too, and Yakupov, I think he's not going to get the contract that the Oilers have been giving out to the other players. He's not going to get the $6 million contract.
And if that's the case, Zach, then and the final thing on this, the one thing that secretly Edmonton might be worrying about is another Alex Burmistrov situation where Burmistrov left Winnipeg because he didn't get along with Claude Noel. We know that Yakupov does not get along well with Dallas Eakins. If he's a restricted free agent at the end of this season, the KHL is a possibility. Now, I'm sure he doesn't want to do that, but it's an option for him. And if he doesn't want to play for Dallas Eakins, then he goes there and he waits for his rights to be traded somewhere else. It's it's gonna be a Burmistrov or a Radulov situation. That
was the Russian kid who was on Columbus, Josh, who they drafted. I can't think of his name.
Filatov.
Yeah, this is what Yakupov reminds me of.
And then they drafted the other kid after him, who's been was even worse than Filatov. Oh no, sorry, no. Filatov is the one I'm thinking of, and the other one was Zverev, who played his way out of the league as well. But anyway.
Yeah, I think Filatov is. I also felt like it reminds me of Yakubov in a lot of ways. First of all, they're both really kind of passionate players, and they both. I mean, Filatov was really beloved in the Columbus area. When you talk to people around the Blue Jackets at the time, they said Filatov is such a great guy. He's such a real, he would hang out at that place across the street, that Boston pizza place across the street from the Blue Jackets center where they play, and he would eat there every day, and he just was completely, he wanted Filatov looked like such a surefire hit, to make it in the NHL, and then just never did, right? And I'm starting to wonder about Yakubov there. I mean, if there's a time to trade Yakubov, it's now for Edmonton. Although, I at the same time, they're saying that I still wish Filatov had given it a longer go and had better coaching, and I think that Yakubov could still be a star. But have we seen a case, thinking back? I was trying to think of this, of a player like Yakubov who was traded and then suddenly just took off in another place. I mean, I guess maybe Tyler Seguin to a degree, perhaps.
Yeah. Any Toronto Maple Leaf? Sorry.
Who's that?
I said or any Toronto Maple Leaf.
I would argue that Voracek. I mean, he didn't really do a lot with Columbus, and then he went to Philadelphia and played very well.
That's true.
But he was never in the doghouse in Columbus, really, was he?
No, he wasn't in the doghouse, but I don't think they bought into his ability as a top six forward. I mean, he had a lot of people thought he had that kind of talent, but he never really showed it in Columbus. And then in Philadelphia, he was given more of an opportunity, and he has grown into that role.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Voracek in my mind. Sorry, Josh, I'll let you go. Voracek in my mind has the difference between Voracek in Columbus and Philly is Voracek goes 110% all the time now. And in Columbus, he had moments when he did that, but he never did that consistently. In Philly, he has been the most consistent flyer over the last 2 years, I would argue, as far as his effort goes. His effort has been ridiculous every game, every shift. He's been impressive. Josh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, the guy I think who's going to take off this year after being traded is Patrick Hornqvist in Pittsburgh. I think he's going to put up some really good numbers. I mean, he was good in Nashville, but I think in Pittsburgh, he could add another 30 points to what he's able to put up.
And you could make an argument that Van Riemsdyk. I mean, Van Riemsdyk really didn't bloom to the point of being a second overall pick with the Flyers, and he scored 30 goals this year for the Leafs and had a really good year the previous year. He's a top-line guy, so, I mean, I don't think he would have been a top-line guy in Philadelphia had things stayed the way they were, so he's improved dramatically from where he was as a Flyer.
Yeah, Alex Steen, too, I think.
Yeah, Marcus Naslin's a good example, maybe. Someone did bring that up in the chat room. I do agree with that.
John LeClair.
But, I mean, these are first overall picks. I'm trying to think of overall picks.
Brett Hall, remember he was in Calgary.
First overall picks?
First overall picks who, when you're a first overall pick, it's a little different, right? So, I mean, Van Riemsdyk's very close to that, okay, Yeah. So I give you that. But JVR had some very successful time in Philly, too. So, it wasn't consistently successful, but he wasn't a bust in Philly. He wasn't in a doghouse in Philly really very often at all.
Cam Neely, Vancouver to Boston.
There you go. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brett Hall, Calgary to St. Louis.
Yep. Yeah, Brett Hall. I mean, so that it can happen. The guys can get these new lives.
Mm-hmm.
Could Yakubov be that kind of player, or can he will he just do really well for the Oilers this year? Will he break through all of this? That's the other. I mean, it's possible.
I mean, do you consider Ilya Kovalchuk's play in New Jersey above and beyond what he did in Atlanta?
No.
I don't.
Neither do I. I mean, he was more of an individual player in Atlanta because he had to be, because he was the star, and he did fit more into a team concept with the Devils. But I don't think his play improved dramatically. But
I was more impressed with him in New Jersey than I was in Atlanta. Like, as far as an all-around player goes and his ability to play on a team in a team system. In Atlanta, and maybe it's just because in Atlanta he didn't have a chance to do that, But he in New Jersey. Yeah, and he wants back in the NHL too, so that's going to come up eventually.
Well, here's an interesting fact. I mean, looking going back to Kovalchuk, from 2002 till now, there has been no first pick who has been traded to another team.
Wow.
They're all still with their original clubs.
Right.
So,
right. That is interesting.
So if Yakupov is moved, he'll be the first one since Kovalchuk.
I got another one too.
But a lot of second-round picks, number 2 picks have been moved. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah.
And it seems to always be Calgary is the team that has the player and they trade him. Marty St. Louis. I mean, Calgary to Tampa, right?
Yeah. Well, that's for sure. That's a good. Well, the Flyers had
Tim Thomas. Tim Thomas as well, right?
Oh, Tim Thomas.
I think he went to Boston.
Yeah, and Kiprasov was traded from the Flyers. So,
Josh, you had some news?
Yes.
What's up, Josh?
And Hasek from the Blackhawks to the Sabres. But anyway.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yes, just some news for those that live in Canada. Hopefully they'll do it in the U.S. as well. Rogers today announcing that the NHL Game Center Live, by the way, it's now called Rogers NHL Game Center Live in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
They've lifted most of the blackouts now, and you can actually catch a lot more games on Game Center this year. They're saying about 1,000 regular season games, plus the 2015 Stanley Cup playoffs, the Winter Classic, and the All-Star Game. So they've basically added 50% more games this season than they had last year for all Canadian subscribers. Plus, the other good thing is Vancouver Canucks. Last year, you couldn't watch any, for those that lived in Vancouver, could not watch Canucks games. This year, you can watch 100% of the games on Game Center if you live in Vancouver.
Only in Vancouver? That doesn't stand for the other hometown like normal.
Let's see. The Vancouver one's the one I read. Let's see. They also have, starting in January, the fans in Quebec with Rogers Game Center Live and TVA Sports subscriptions from a participating television provider can watch live French broadcasts of over 100 national games featuring all Canadian teams. Also,
well, I did read, Josh, that the 26 regional Leaf games that are being carried by TSN will be blacked out. So not all the Leaf games will be carried.
How much was Game Center Live, by the way, last year, guys?
How much?
Game Center Live is like $100 a year.
$150. Well,
well, how about this? If you are a Rogers wireless subscriber or a high-speed internet subscriber, the subscription is free until December 21st. Or sorry, 31st. December 31st.
They're giving you a taste. I mean,
But fans who are not Rogers customers can subscribe to the Rogers NHL Game Center Live for $199.99 for the full season.
That's about right. So that's about. There's a couple. This is a great thing, Josh.
Yes.
Send me a link to this article because this is something I'm incredibly passionate about. And as you know, Mike, and as other people know, like I've fought the NHL tooth and nail in this kind of thing. I've actually had conversations with him. I've been to the office.
I just threw it in the chat there for you.
Great. Yeah, this is enormous in so many ways. And a big, now this happening in the United States, I'm very skeptical about.
They got to fix it because there were a lot of people complaining about it last year.
Well, okay, as a consumer, as somebody, I mean, I write about, I cover, I watch all the teams.
Mm-hmm.
But I have the NHL Center Ice package on my television. If I have the NHL Center Ice package on my television, I should be able to get Game Center Live instead of having to pay the same $150 fee.
Yeah. And I think Major League Baseball did that last year, Mike. Major League Baseball changed it so that if you got the Major League Baseball package on your TV, you would also get the Major League Baseball package on your on your computer. But in the NHL, it's still you have to pay two prices. So I stopped getting Game Center. Game Center is way better than Center Ice. Mm-hmm. So I get Game Center and I just plug an HDMI out of my computer and watch it on TV, right? So
plus Apple TV has it as well. That's what I love.
Plus, Apple TV has it. I'm curious though how that'll work though. If Apple TV there's different things too. There's Game Center on NHL.com, and then there's I wonder like if you're with Rogers, if you have an Apple TV, but you happen to be with Rogers, I bet you're still going to get blackouts on Apple TV. There's all different sorts of things, but
yeah. Plus my main complaint, and I mean I don't know where you lodge a complaint, but again as a consumer, Game Center, the one nice thing is that, and like Major League, like the MLB at bat app that they have, you can listen to whoever your favorite team is. You can listen to their broadcast. You can pick up the Columbus broadcast or the Toronto broadcast. On NHL Center Ice, they have a certain number of channels, and they won't carry both broadcasts. So invariably, when I'm watching a Leaf game, I'm going to get the Phoenix feed or the Florida feed and not the Toronto feed. And honestly, as somebody who watches the Toronto games, I would rather get the Toronto feed than the Phoenix feed.
All I can say is this, guys. HideMyAss.com. Check it out. I'm not going to say anything more. But if you go to that, go to HideMyAss.com.
Is there any Jennifer Lawrence pictures?
If no, this fixes all these issues.
Okay,
and
that better be a big website for me.
And it is legal. It's VPN. VPN is really well known throughout the world, and well known. I'm sure in Canada, a lot of people VPN in because you can get Hulu and things like that. But VPN just is a perfectly legal system that enables you to run what your computer's seeing through another computer in the world somewhere and make it look like you're there. So if I want to watch a local game on Game Center or on MLB or whatever, all I have to do is VPN through Germany or VPN through Sweden, and suddenly there are no blackouts for me, including the whole playoffs. I mean, this is why, and the NHL knows this exists, but the problem is the NHL, not enough people are doing it to affect the NHL. So they're still willing to do this. If more people do this, if more people go and use these VPN services, which are they're totally legal. They're like $9 a month, and they're huge. And you can use them on your iPad, you can use them on your Apple TV, you can use them anywhere. They enable you to really, and they're in HD for sure, and it enables you to get rid of those blackout restrictions. And the more people do that, and the why I like to get it out there, the more people that do this, the more likely we are that more of this kind of stuff like Rogers is doing is going to happen, because they're going to say, okay, because I would totally pay money. I would pay lots of money right now, I would tell you, to be able to do this without VPN. I would pay extra money to have no blackouts. I would pay $299 a year if all the blackouts were lifted in a heartbeat versus $199 a year, right? And I think a lot of people are like that too.
Also, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, Ek, but you can also watch Hockey Night in Canada now every Saturday if you're a subscriber to the Rogers NHL Game Center.
Well, of course, this is Rogers, And
in the U.S., NHL.com has been carrying Hockey Night in Canada for the last few years in HD, which is another thing that the
NHL Network does too, right, Mike?
Yeah, NHL Network. I'm sorry. Some of the channels on the Center Ice package are still not high def on my local cable, so I'm not able to watch some games on high def. And believe me, if you're so used to watching games on high def and you go back to standard definition, it's like flying a biplane compared to a
yeah. I mean, you have to have good internet to pull this off too. I mean, this is the other thing. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have good internet, it can be a pain in the neck.
You're paying a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pain, and but the bottom line is there's a way of doing this, and it's really just some of the cable companies trying desperately to hang on to a dying paradigm is the only reason it's not happening now. So.
And another thing with this today, they actually had Mark Messier there at Rogers campus today going over this new deal. Another thing Game Center is going to start doing, they're turning back time with access to full-length archive games this season, including more than 800 memorable classics from the NHL Vault dating back to 1960. Fans can also get extra ice features like on-demand full-length and condensed replays and highlights dating back to the 60s.
Well, that's what Apple TV does already too. So I mean, this is like this. That what I have behind me are two Apple TVs back here, and they actually so I can go into archives. I'll show you guys. We'll end the show real quickly, but we'll just end this. We're going along today, guys, a little bit. But okay, so if I was to go into here, let's see if I can do this. See, I actually have taped all of my Apple TV remotes to this giant thing because I always lose my Apple TV remotes. So I taped them all to this original 6 banner that I have.
Nice.
This way I never lose this big giant thing, right? So
you have 3 Apple TVs?
We have 5, actually.
Jeez.
All right, so going through here, so NHL Vault, which is on here. Look at the top screen if you can. I'll try to get this better so you can see a little better. There you go. So top screen there, you can see. So this, I go into NHL Vault. I don't know how well you can see this or not, but like the first game there is May 1st, 1965, Chicago Blackhawks versus Montreal Canadiens. The top column there is all Stanley Cup winners, and then this column here, the second is greatest rivalries. So you have like 1975. This is like the Red Army versus the Montreal Canadiens. You know. So,
Oh wow.
And you can watch these anytime. So.
Huh.
So that's an Apple TV feature that the NHL does on Apple TV, and they also do online. There's also an NHL.com has a section of that too. But I think it's extra. I think you pay extra for on NHL.com if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, there's a lot of that's been going on for a while now. So we're gonna end the show because we have we went a little long today. Sorry guys, thanks. We'll be back tomorrow with maybe a special guest or two. We're gonna talk. Tomorrow we're going to get into wacky predictions, not just the straight-up predictions, but wacky predictions. I do a blog every year, the 30 wacky predictions that I could think of, and sometimes, some of them turn out to be true. They're always fun to talk about. They're not like the obvious predictions that people are making right now, and they're not even things I think are likely to happen, but the things that could happen that would be really surprising if they did happen. So things like that. So we'll get into that tomorrow as well, and. Yeah, guys. So remember, you can follow Mike at Mike in Buffalo. You can follow Josh at NHL Josh Rimmer, right?
Josh Rimmer Hockey.
At Josh Rimmer Hockey.
What's up? Josh Rimmer Hockey at Josh Rimmer Hockey.
Yeah.
And if you're watching the show on tape, remember we record in general at 1 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. Live, and if you're live, you can get involved in the chat room, which we've been talking about, which is on my blog, and people can ask questions, and it's fun that way. We'll do a question and answer thing. I have a good idea for a regular show that we're going to start soon as well, which I haven't even talked to the guys about yet, but we're going to do that too. Plus another show another podcast is going to launch soon. So there's a lot of exciting stuff. So make sure you stay tuned. Let me move this over here, and we'll talk to you soon, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. See you then.